Good morning, all of you. So, in the previous classes, until previous classes, we discussed about the friction and we finished our friction topic, right? So, now in today class, we are going to discuss about the horizontal circular motion. So, why I am saying this horizontal circular motion means later we discuss that vertical circular motion when the body is revolving in a vertical circle. Because to discuss that vertical circle, we need the conservation of energy principles. So after completing that conservation of energy principles, then we will discuss that vertical circular motion. So here we discuss about horizontal circular motion. So in this horizontal circular motion, some basic definitions will be there, like angular velocity, angular acceleration, and then like the relations among them. So such a simple definitions will be there. So let us first see all those definitions here. So first I can write about the angular displacement. So angular displacement. That means now say if suppose a particle is moving along the circular path here. Now suppose initially the particle is here and now in the given time it is traveling until this position here, right? Suppose we are taking initially the particle is at point A, now it is reaching this point say B here, and so that this is the radius vector we call here. This radius vector is turning through an angle theta. So the angle turn or angle described by that radius vector in the given time interval is nothing but we called angular displacement. Is it clear? So the angular displacement is the angle turned by the radius vector in the given interval of time. So that is angular displacement, and so by that it is clear that we express in terms of these angles, that means radians. So angular displacement generally we express that unit as radians. Just write the definition. The angle described by the radius vector, the angle described by the radius vector in the given interval of time is called angular displacement. Angular displacement. Next it's SI unit, it is expressed in radian. It is expressed in radian and we represent like RAD while representing. And now here my question is that angular velocity, angular displacement is a vector or a scalar quantity? Is angular displacement is vector or scalar? So that means there is some specialty regarding the concluding about vector or scalar quantity regarding this angular displacement here. So that means if its magnitude is small, we can say it is a vector quantity. Its magnitude, if its magnitude is large, then we say it is a scalar quantity. So that means whether it is a vector or scalar, it depends on its magnitude here. So why it is magnitude when the magnitude is small, when why it is a vector quantity, and when the magnitude is large, why it is a scalar quantity means, you know, in order to say a quantity is a vector quantity, a physical quantity is a vector quantity, it should obey that vector laws of addition. That means generally we say the definition of the vector as the physical quantity which possesses both magnitude and direction. In addition to that, that means it should also obey the laws of vector addition, right? So all of you know that definition clearly, right? It should possess magnitude and direction. So if it is possess magnitude and direction, then we can't call simply it as a vector quantity. It should also obey the laws of vector addition. So now this angular displacement does not obey that commutative law here. So why? Because if suppose for the large displacements, what we can write here is, so for large angular displacements, so theta 1 plus theta 2 is not equal to theta 2 plus theta 1. So this is the major thing here. So it does not obey this commutative law, and so that we call this as a scalar quantity for the large magnitude. And whereas for small magnitude, for small angular displacements, So what we can write is d theta 1 plus d theta 2 is equal to d theta 2 plus d theta 1 you can write. So this is for small magnitudes. D theta means it is a simple indicates that small value. We are taking very small displacements there. So for small displacement this is valid, and for larger displacement that is not valid here. Simply I will explain that. I will explain this why it is, how this is theta 1 plus theta 2 is not equal to theta 2 plus theta 1 for the large values, right? And now simply let us take that theta 1. I am taking an object here. Suppose say I'm taking this book here. Suppose I am taking like theta 1 as a rotation. Suppose let us take this. This is our x-axis I am assuming here. Observe this clearly. This is x-axis I am taking, and let us take this the y-axis. This is the y-axis. So that means now the book is in xy plane here actually. Now this is a vertical axis, the z-axis I am taking. Is it clear? X, y, and this is z. Now initially we are taking this object in this position here. Now theta 1 means I am taking this rotation about this x-axis by 90 degrees. 90 degrees rotation about x-axis let us consider here. And theta 2 means 90 degrees rotation about y-axis. So let us consider that theta 1 and theta 2 like that. So now theta 1 means rotation about x-axis by 90 degrees. So this is our x-axis. So then about this we need to rotate it by 90 degrees. So we are turning like this. So initially the book is like this. So that then about this x-axis we are turning by 90 degrees. So 90 degrees means then you will get like this, right? So now this is our theta 1 value. So see this theta 1 value. Next theta 2 means what we are assuming is rotation about y-axis by 90 degrees. So this is our y-axis, right? So then about this y-axis by 90 degrees. About this y-axis by 90 degrees means then this one. This is the position of theta 1 plus theta 2, right? That means I am saying again, this is our initial position. This is our x-axis. So rotation about x-axis by 90 degrees. So that means then the book will turn like this. Initially it is horizontal. So it will become vertical like this. Plus theta 2 we are doing. Theta 2 means rotation about y-axis by 90 degrees. This is our y-axis. So about this y-axis we should turn by 90 degrees. So initially now it is like this. Now it will become like this. So now this is the theta 1 plus theta 2. Right. So remember this position. This is the position of theta 1 plus theta 2. Right. Next I am going back to the initial position. Initially this is our position. Now let us do this theta 2 plus theta 1. This side now I am verifying here. Theta 2 plus theta 1. Now first theta 2. Theta 2 means rotation about this. Rotation about y-axis by 90 degrees. Theta 2 means. So then rotation about y-axis by 90 degrees means then you will get like this. Right. This is our rotation about y-axis by 90 degrees. Next plus theta 1. Theta 1 means rotation about x-axis by 90 degrees. So this is our theta x-axis. So rotation about this x-axis by 90 degrees. Then you will get this position here. Right? Is the previous one and this one are same. Theta 1 plus theta 2 and theta 2 plus theta 1 and theta 1 plus theta 2. Both are same. So both are different. Right? So previously we didn't get this position here. Previously what we get is like this. Theta 1 is like this. Rotation about this. And theta 2 is like this. So this is our theta 1 plus theta 2. And theta 2 plus theta 1 means we are getting like this. So that both are not equal. Is it clear? So that is our, it doesn't obey this commutative law here. So for the large magnitudes. And now let us verify for the small magnitudes here. Just I am taking some value, let it be a small. The same values let us take here. D theta means some small rotation about x-axis. D theta 1. Now d theta 2 is small rotation about y-axis. Is it clear? So that same thing we are taking x and y, that small, instead of 90 degrees we need to take that as small. So now let us verify this d theta 1 plus d theta 2. Again the same. This is our x-axis, y-axis and this is the z-axis, right? Now d theta 1 I am doing here. D theta 1 means rotation about x-axis by small amount. So this is our x-axis. So initially the book is horizontal. Now we are turning to the small angle here. Just it is inclined like this, right? So at some angle, it is now inclined at some angle here. That is d theta 1 plus d theta 2 next we need to do. So d theta 2 means rotation about y axis, small rotation about y axis by about this y axis here. So that means now from this position it is turning like this. Is it clear? So this is our y axis. So about y axis now we are turning like this. I am going back here. Once again listen this, observe this carefully. This is our initial position. This is our x axis. D theta 1 rotation about x axis by small amount. Just we are turning a little. Then this is our y axis. Now this side is like this. And so now this rotation about y axis by small angle. So this is our about this y axis we need to turn like this. D theta 2, right? So this is our position. Remember this. This is our d theta 1 plus d theta 2, right? So now let us go back to that initial position. Now this is our initial position. Now let us do this d theta 2 first. This one. So then d theta 2 means rotation about this y axis by 90 degrees, small angle. It is our initial position. Initially all the sides are horizontal. Now this about this y axis we need to turn like this. So about y axis small angle. So it is just inclined like this. Next rotation about x axis by small angle. This is our x axis. So about x axis means now we need to turn like this. We need to turn this side like this. So observe this again. This is our x axis. So all the side y axis and all the sides are horizontal. Now we are turning like this, right? We are just moving this side up so that this side is still horizontal only. This edge is still horizontal. When you are doing the d theta 2 plus d theta 1. So d theta 1 is rotation about x axis by 90 degrees. So this is our d theta 1. So you can observe that previous position is also this like this only. The previous one when you are doing the d theta 1 plus d theta 2, right? And so then for small magnitudes you will get they are equal, and for large magnitudes they are not equal. And so that for the large magnitude we say it is an vector, it is a scalar quantity for large magnitude, and for small magnitude it is a scalar quantity. So just to mention that angular momentum, angular displacement is a scalar if its magnitude is large, and it is a vector if its magnitude is small, and And you may mention the reason for this. For large displacements, for large angular displacement, theta 1 plus theta 2 is not equal to theta 2 plus theta 1. And for small angular displacement, d theta 1 plus d theta 2 is equal to d theta 2 plus d theta 1. So that is about this angular displacements, the important thing what you need to remember. Next let us define this angular velocity. So angular velocity of an object in circular motion. So angular velocity. So angular velocity generally we represent with that symbol omega. So that we call now W, we call that as omega. So then this is angular velocity. So here first we define this average angular velocity here. So in this first we define average angular velocity. So this is omega average. So now this omega average is defined as, it is a simple the ratio of total angular displacement to total time interval. In a particular time interval if you are defining here, the average angular velocity is defined as total angular displacement by time. So that means we can define this as, that it is a ratio of total angular displacement to total time interval. That means if you are defining in certain interval, then we call this as average angular velocity here. So that means this delta theta by delta t you can write. The average angular velocity is nothing but, or simply if you are taking that theta as an angular displacement and time as a t, then you can write this as theta by t you can write, where theta is the total angular displacement and t is the time interval, you can call that. And so now the unit will be radian per second. So that will be the unit here, radian per second, right? And so that is our angular velocity, average angular velocity, the ratio of total angular displacement to total time interval. Like for example, if you are saying that it is completing some 45 degrees angle in suppose say 2 seconds in a time interval of 2 seconds, then that 45 in the sense you can say it as pi by 4. So pi by 4 by this 2 seconds. So pi by 8 will be the angular velocity of this. So average angular velocity of that object, right? So the total angular displacement by total time interval you need to write. Whatever the time interval you are considering, the total time interval you need to write. And whereas if you want to write simply angular velocity, or which we call instantaneous angular velocity. Now suppose if you want to define this instantaneous angular velocity, so instantaneous angular velocity, so simply now we represent with this omega, angular velocity, or you can call, it means that instantaneous angular velocity, simply you can call that as angular velocity there. Just here we can write this as we know this average angular velocity as delta theta by delta t, right? And so now from this we can define that instantaneous angular velocity as, that instantaneous angular velocity you can define this as from this. So let us write this first, if that delta t tends to 0, so that means limit delta t tends to 0, delta theta by delta t. So that means now we are taking that delta t is very small. Very small means then it will becomes almost at that point of time there. So that is now similar to that of our average velocity and instantaneous velocity definitions. So if you are taking a particular time interval and then if you are defining, then we call simply it as average. If you are taking almost approaching a point of time, then we call simply that instantaneous, right? So as that average velocity and the instantaneous velocity we know, I think this much explanation is not required to differentiate between average and instantaneous, right? And so now here this limit delta t tends to 0 means, then you know you can write this expression as d theta by dt. So that means under this limit that we introduce this differentiation under this limit only. When delta t tends to 0, then delta theta by delta t you can write that as d theta by dt. So this we called our angular velocity here, or instantaneous angular velocity. So now this is our instantaneous angular velocity here. So instantaneous angular velocity you can write this as omega is equal to d theta by dt, and its unit is also same, radian per second. And so now here it can be defined now it as instantaneous angular velocity means the rate of change of angular displacement. So the rate of change of angular displacement is called instantaneous angular velocity, or simply angular velocity. So just mention the definition here. The rate of change of angular displacement of an object, the rate of change of angular displacement of an object is called angular velocity, or instantaneous angular velocity, or instantaneous angular velocity, right? And that will be the unit there. So instantaneous angular velocity is a vector quantity, and it is like axial vector here. You know, in vectors, two types of vectors are there, linear vectors and axial vectors. So axial vectors means all those vectors will be only along the axis of rotation. So like angular velocity, angular acceleration, and then angular momentum, torque, all these are axial vectors. So they are always along axis of rotation, and in that axial vectors you can't define like instantaneous, that means initial point and final point of the vector. But whereas for the linear vectors like displacement, velocity and force, you can define what is the initial point and what is the final point of that vector. So it is one of the major difference there. And all these vectors will be along axis of rotation only. Like suppose if the object is revolving in the circle here, if it is revolving like this, then angular velocity we represent like this. So actually this object is, this simply indicates that rotation here. It is not the direction of angular velocity. Angular velocity will be along this axis here. Simply here if the object is revolving like this, then it is not the angular velocity direction. It is the rotation direction, just the rotation direction. Now the angular velocity will be along this axis of rotation here. Whether it is upwards or downwards means simply, that means whether it is out of the plane or into the plane means simply you can apply this right hand thumb rule. If these four fingers, curl of four fingers indicates the direction of rotation, then the thumb indicates the direction of angular velocity. Like for example, here the object is rotating in this anti-clockwise direction, then the angular velocity will be out of the plane. If the object is turning like this, then this angular velocity will be into the plane. So here this, if the object is rotating like this, then angular velocity we can represent it as out of the plane. So out of the plane means we represent like this, dot and circle around that. That indicates its direction is perpendicular to the plane and out of the plane. And whereas if the particle is revolving like this, it is moving in this clockwise sense for example, then clockwise sense means then omega will be into the plane. So into the plane means then we represent like this, dot and this cross here. So that into mark will indicate it is perpendicular to the plane and into the plane, and this dot and circle will represent it is out of the plane here. So that simply that is a rotation representation of this vector here. So that will be the angular velocity is a axial vector which is along this axis of rotation, right? So that is about this instantaneous angular velocity. And we can express this in different ways here, or let us write some important points regarding this angular velocity. I think all of you know the relation between time period and this angular velocity. If t is the time period, so write some points here. If t is the time period, time period means time taken to complete one revolution. So mention in brackets if you want. If t is the time period, that is time taken to complete one revolution, then angular velocity of the particle can be defined as, angular velocity of the particle is given by 2 pi by t. So that means now this is our angular relation between angular velocity and time period here. So if we know the time period of revolution of an object, then we can write this angular velocity like this, 2 pi by t, because simply it is nothing but theta by t value. So theta for one complete rotation, if the particle is completing one revolution here, the angular displacement of the particle is nothing but for one revolution, we can say it as a 2 pi for one revolution means. So then for one revolution time taken is nothing but our t. So that we can define this as omega is equal to 2 pi by t. And the same thing you can also express in terms of frequency. So you know frequency can be defined as, so frequency f is equal to, it is a reciprocal of time period. I think all of you know this. So frequency is defined as number of rotations made in 1 second. So if a particle is revolving, suppose say for 2 revolutions per second, then you can call this as frequency is 2. So the number of rotations made by the particle in 1 second. So that we call that as angular frequency here. So that angular frequency is simply, it is defined as a reciprocal of this time period. So the reciprocal of time period, and so you can write this unit as H or second inverse, right? Or sometimes it will also be expressed like this, either H, or you can write this second inverse you can write. And so in terms of that f, you can write this as omega is equal to 2 pi f you can write. That means if frequency of the particle is given to us, then you can write this omega value like this. The angular velocity you can write this as 2 pi f, right? And next here, sometimes they will mention that omega value as like RPM or RPS, revolutions per minute and revolutions per second, they will express here. So then see that. So sometimes the omega value will be expressed as RPM. So that I am writing this 1 RPM is equal to. So RPM means revolutions per minute. So revolutions per minute. So for 1 minute it is completing that revolution. Suppose if I am taking this 1 RPM, so then you need to convert this as 1 into 2 pi by 60, right? So that means for 1 revolution the angular displacement is 2 pi, by minute means we are converting that into second. So then this is our 1 RPM conversion here, then you will get in radians per second. So therefore this 1 RPM is equal to 2 pi by 60 radians per second. You can simplify that and you may write that as pi by 30. So then this is our RPM conversion here, RPM to radian per second. Or sometimes they will give like this value as RPS. Like suppose simply where it is useful means sometimes they will mention that particle is making like 10 RPM. So particle is making 10 RPM means if you want to write the omega value here, remember this omega value always be while substituting in any numericals, omega value we substitute that means we substitute in radian per second unit only. Like this they may express that omega value in different units, but finally you need to convert that into radian per second, and that radian per second only you need to substitute in that. So that this value is then if you want to convert this 10 into our RPM conversion, you can write, and so that you can write this as 2 pi by 6 you can write, or we can write this as pi by 3. So pi by 3 radian per second. So if they are giving like 10 RPM, then while substituting in any equation you need to substitute this value as pi by 3 radian per second, you need to substitute. Is it clear? So that means you need to observe that omega unit there. Or sometimes as I said they may express like RPS. So you may mention that full form there, revolution per second, that RPS means. And so now this 1 RPS you can write this simply as 1 into 2 pi radians per second. It is already in second only, so no need of converting there. Therefore simply 1 RPS is equal to, you can write this as simply 2 pi radians per second. So you need to just multiply the given value with that 2 pi, then it converts into radians per second, right? That is another important thing you need to remember here. And then some other values will be there, like angular velocity of the seconds hand in a clock. So now let us mention those values also here. So this one is angular velocity of seconds hand in a clock. So can you say this value now, angular velocity of a seconds hand in a clock? So simply we need to write like 2 pi by t, right? That is our formula here. So now that 2 pi by, for 1 revolution how much time that seconds hand will take? So to complete 1 revolution here, suppose if you are taking this as a clock, so like this is 3, 6 and 9, and so now it is 12. Now if it is starting from here, the seconds hand will take how much time to complete 1 revolution here? So that is nothing but seconds hand means it takes 60 seconds. If it is completing 1 revolution, then time taken is 60 seconds. So that means then 2 pi by 60 radians per second, or which you can write this as you can cancel that 2 if you want, then I can express this as pi by 30 radians per second. So this is the angular velocity of the seconds hand. Is it clear? Now it is a fixed value now, because generally in every clock it will take that 60 seconds there, and so that then pi by 30 is angular velocity of the seconds hand. Now next we can write this angular velocity of minutes hand. So let us write similarly here. Angular velocity of minutes hand in a clock. So minutes hand in a clock. In a similar way, now you can write here 2 pi by if it is one minutes hand is completing one revolution, then what is the time there? So 1 hour. So that means 60 minutes, or which is nothing but 60 into 60 seconds, right? So mention that in hours and minutes also, because sometimes I'm expressed in different units there. So I can write this as 2 pi by 1 hour. So 2 pi by 1. So you can express that unit as radian per hour, or which is nothing but 2 pi by 60, which is radian per minute. And you can express this as 2 pi by 60 into 60 radian per second, right? So then this is our way of expressing the angular velocity of this minutes hand. So that simplification will depend on the options or the further calculations. Just way of expressing that 2 pi by 60 into 60 you can write. Now in a similar way, if I ask what is the angular velocity of this hour's hand. So next write this. Angular velocity of hour's hand. Angular velocity of hour's hand in a clock. So this value we can write this as 2 pi by t. So if the hour's hand is completing one revolution, then how much time it will take? So then it is 12 hours, right? So then 2 pi by 12, then I can write this as radian per hour, if you are expressing in terms of this radian per hour. Or you can write this as 2 pi by 12 into 60, if you are expressing in minutes. Or it can be written as 2 pi by 12 into 60 into 60, if you are expressing it in radian per second. So right. So this will be the way of expressing this angular velocity of this hour's hand. You may further simplify and you can write that if you want that. And so then next another thing what we can write here is angular velocity of the earth about its own axis. So this is angular velocity of earth about its own axis. So when it is rotating about its own axis, then angular velocity of the earth. So which you can write this as 2 pi by, it will take like 24 hours. So 24 hours. So if you are expressing in hours, then you can write this as radian per second, radian per hour, or it can be expressed as 24, that means 2 pi by 24 into 60 into 60. Then this will be radian per second you will get. So then that is, you can simplify and you can write here. So this is our angular velocity of the earth about its own axis. So like that you can write the angular velocities of the standard objects in this way. Just we are using that 2 pi by t, right? And then next let us define this angular acceleration. Angular acceleration. So the next definition I am writing here, this is angular acceleration. So this angular acceleration is defined with this alpha. And so again here first we may define this average angular acceleration here. Average angular acceleration. Simply average means if you are defining for this a particular time interval, then we call that as average angular acceleration there, right? So therefore this alpha average is nothing but we can define this as the ratio of change in angular velocity to time interval. So the ratio of change in angular velocity to time interval is defined as our average angular acceleration, similar to that of our acceleration, average linear acceleration. So then that simply our A is called linear acceleration and this is called alpha is called angular acceleration here. So then alpha is equal to alpha average is equal to delta omega by delta t you can write. And now we can observe the unit of this average angular acceleration is this is already radian per second. So again we are dividing with the second here. So radian per second square you will get. And so that its unit will be radian per second square. So this will be the average acceleration unit there. And so now this is a simple definition here. You may mention the definition. The ratio of change in angular velocity to time interval is called average angular acceleration. Average angular acceleration. Next, instantaneous angular acceleration. So instantaneous angular acceleration, simply we represent this alpha. Now same as that of our previous instantaneous angular velocity definition there. So you can define this average alpha is equal to, suppose if you are defining this under very small time interval here which is approaching to 0, this delta omega by delta t, and so then this value you can write this as alpha is equal to d omega by dt you can write here. So d omega by dt you can write. And so now simply from this we define this as, now this is our instantaneous angular acceleration here. So from this what we can define generally instantaneous angular acceleration means the rate of change of angular velocity. The rate of change of angular velocity is called angular acceleration. And so its unit will be like radian per second square. So just mention that. So just you may mention first about this definition here, limit delta t tends to 0, delta omega by delta t, and then that value we write this as that means under this condition this average will be equal to this instantaneous here. That means you may write this as alpha or alpha average you can write. We are writing this as when you are taking this value, that value will tends to, this value will become this average instantaneous acceleration, or you can take like this here, or you may here itself you can mention that as alpha. That average for very small interval only it will be equal to that of instantaneous value there, right? So then this is delta omega by delta t. Therefore the instantaneous angular velocity is defined as angular acceleration is defined as rate of change of angular velocity. It is a vector quantity. And its direction is along axis of rotation. Mention next point there. If alpha and omega are in same direction, then omega value, that means angular velocity of the object goes on increasing. And next, if alpha and omega are in opposite direction, then angular velocity of the object goes on decreasing. then angular velocity of the object goes on decreasing. It is simple, same as that of our linear case here. We know in linear motion, if acceleration and velocity both are in same direction, like suppose if you are projecting an object vertically upwards, then you know g will be there in downward direction, right? So now these two are opposite each other, that acceleration and velocity are opposite each other, so that while going up its velocity goes on decreasing there. And whereas when it is coming down, if you are taking here, then velocity and this acceleration both are in downward direction only. So in that case, velocity of the object goes on increasing there. So simply that case here. If alpha is constant, then it is said to be uniform angular constant both in magnitude and direction. If alpha is constant both in magnitude and direction, then we call it as uniform angular acceleration. Uniform angular acceleration. If a body is moving with uniform angular acceleration, then we can use our kinematic equations. So our kinematic equations means in linear motion we know already, like v is equal to u plus at, right? This is our velocity equation. Now such a similar equation in rotatory motion is the circular motion or rotatory motion is omega is equal to omega naught plus alpha into t. This is a similar equation. This is the velocity at any instant, initial velocity, and this is acceleration. So this is the angular velocity at any instant, initial angular velocity, this omega is initial angular velocity, alpha is the angular acceleration, which must be a constant. So for a constant, you know, in linear motion, these equations are valid only when the acceleration is constant. Similarly here, this equation is valid only when the alpha is constant, right? So there is such a similar equation here. If you want to mention that omega naught is, or finally let us write that what is omega naught and what is alpha values there. And so next here I am writing this like v square minus u square is equal to 2as. And so now that equation there is, so you can convert this into this angular motion as omega square minus omega naught square is equal to 2 alpha into theta. So this angular acceleration we are this linear acceleration we are replacing with angular acceleration. This is a linear displacement, we need to convert that into angular displacement there. So right, and so next here similarly you can mention this as the third equation as s is equal to ut plus half at square. And such a similar equation in that angular motion you can write this as means we need to replace with theta, angular displacement. So theta is equal to omega naught into t plus half alpha t square. Is it clear? Displacement, linear displacement we are replacing with angular displacement, linear velocity, angular velocity, and linear acceleration, angular acceleration. That SN formula is not required generally for us, and if you want you can apply such a similar SN formula also. Like in SN formula, that means displacement in nth second, you can write this as that is generally not required in angular motions there, or if it is required you can use that u plus a into n minus half, right? Or similarly here you can use that equation as theta n is equal to omega naught plus alpha into n minus half you can use here, where n is the time. That n represents the time there, you know already, nth second that n stands for. So now in this mention this clearly here, omega naught is initial angular velocity, omega is angular velocity at any instant at any time t, and alpha is angular acceleration and theta is angular displacement. So sometimes you need to write in terms of number of rotations there. If the particle complete one rotation, then angular displacement you can write this as theta is equal to 2 pi you can write. When the body completes n revolutions, then angular displacement you can write this as 2 pi n you can write here. When body completes n revolutions, so mention that. So because sometimes they will ask like number of rotations made by the particle, then angular displacement we need to calculate, and from that that angular displacement is equal to 2 pi n we need to write there. So mention that if body completes n revolutions, then angular displacement of the object is 2 pi n theta. Angular displacement theta is equal to 2 pi n. So that means based on this I am not giving any problems here. You can practice, you can solve those problems easily. Just those are kinematic equations applications only, which we solved in kinematics. Just they will give initial velocity and they will ask velocity after certain time or certain displacement or angular displacement after certain time. And so you need to remember these equations are valid only when angular acceleration is constant. If angular acceleration is variable, then you can't use this equation. Just we need to use our differentiation and integration calculus method we need to use there. So just to mention that also, if alpha, that is if angular acceleration is not uniform, we should not use the above equations, and we should use calculus. We should use the calculus method to find the unknowns. That means in calculus method means simply you can write that as if d omega by dt is given as alpha for us, then from this d omega is equal to alpha into dt you can write, and you can integrate here from this omega initial to omega final, and this is from t initial to t final. That means given limits. So we should integrate like this. And similarly, if suppose omega is known to us and if you want to find angular displacement, then omega you can write this as d theta by dt, and therefore this d theta is equal to omega into dt, and then integration. So from 0 to t you may consider here, for example, then 0 to theta and 0 to t you may consider there. And if suppose that alpha is given as a function of theta, that angular velocity is sometimes given as a theta, function of theta, then it can be written as omega into d omega by d theta also we can write here, and therefore this d theta is equal to omega into, you can write that as alpha into d theta. So I will write here. So I can write this as omega into d omega is equal to alpha into d theta you can write, and you can integrate here. So like that. If alpha is given as a function of time, then you need to use this equation. If alpha is given as a function of the angular displacement, then we need to use this. So by substituting that alpha value here, then you can integrate it, right? Just the derivation process of these equations there. That means if alpha is not constant, then we should use this differentiation and integration method there. By using the differential forms, we need to integrate the equations there. So based on this, I am not giving any problems. You can practice the problems easily, or you can solve the problems easily based on this, right? So these are some basic definitions are there, and in the next class I will explain the relation between linear quantities and angular quantities there. Like what is the relation between linear velocity, angular velocity, and linear acceleration and angular acceleration. So those relations we will derive or we will discuss in our next class, right? Thank you.